Aloha, everybody. It is December 4th, 2024, and I am pretty sure my microphone is connected. So just give me a second to find out how to update it. This platform has changed a few times. So, anyway, I have to figure it out, but hopefully you can hear me. I just don't think you guys are hearing me through my microphone, my Yeti, not Yeti, what is it called? I don't know, one of these fancy microphones that cost a crazy amount of money. And like, what's the point of having it if I don't even use it? But I don't see where I can check for that. So, anyway, what are you going to do? Anthony, in the small miracle of chance you're listening, maybe you can help me figure this out. Yeah, I can't find where the microphone update is. I press microphone imagery and it just mutes it. It doesn't allow me to change it. So good to be here today. Excited to see if we have any volunteers for speed coaching. If you guys come to any of these, you know that's what I'm always hoping that will occur, because it's always better to do some coaching. But yeah, I have to get a little used to this platform's changes because it's just all over the place. So here is the link for anybody who wants to come in to have some live coaching. I hope you will come in, because it is it's really what I do these for. It's like, what's the point, right? If I come here, I mean, God knows I have a lot to talk about. I can go and talk, but ultimately I want to be a contribution to you guys. So yeah, if anybody is watching on Instagram, would you tell me if it's working there? Yeah, it's a little tricky, guys, doing all these things while I'm trying to have a conversation with you guys. So I hope you'll forgive me if it seems like I'm a little out of it in the beginning. I have to go to like 14 different platforms and hook them all in. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is working, and now I might have to change the Instagram. Yeah, see, that isn't working either. Good Lord. There are lots of issues today. So goodness me, I just feel bad that that's the case. So let me just try. Even YouTube is all jacked up. It says it's streaming, but I'm not sure it is, but hopefully it is. But there's 18 people here, so let's hope it's working. But what I'm looking for is the invitation to send to you guys so that you can, come in to the room. But for whatever reason, let me just see, it says to invite guests. I am pressing that, and then I'm trying to put that here. I have to put that out too. Okay, that looks like it's working now. I don't know, the first time didn't seem to work. So, all right, let me put that up on X. Ultimately, guys, this is in service to you. This is in service to your up leveling as a trader. So I hope that you guys will, consider utilizing me coming here, because really it's in service to you, and hopefully to give you some tools for wherever you yourself find yourself stuck. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Opal Securities, so much for sponsoring these. That makes it possible for me to do it. So yeah. Anywho, all right, let's see here. Do I have any volunteers? We have about 27 people here so far. So I'm kind of curious if anybody here right now wants to volunteer. If you're in YouTube, you should be able to see that link that I shared. It says Studio Restream at the start of it. And if you're watching this on any of the other platforms, all you have to do is if you're on X especially, just go to the live coaching that you're looking at, look at the first comment, and that first comment is going to give you the link to join the Restream. And I'd love to have you here with me. So yeah, come on in. Alex, I'd love to meet you in person. I see you watching there via YouTube, so I'm glad you're here. There was a quote that I just put up that one of the accounts I follow, his name is Dylan. He's a great follow, Dylan O'Sullivan. Dylan OA4 is his handle on X. But he put up this great quote a little bit ago, and it says this: every act of conscious learning requires the willingness to suffer an injury to one's self-esteem. That is why young children, before they're aware of their own self-importance, learn so easily. And it's why older persons, especially if vain or important, cannot learn at all. And I just thought, good Lord, that just is so powerful. And that is ultimately, guys, why I do see this being so much harder than traders expect it to be, because you are having to be willing to have your ego compromised, right? The ego, I'm not going to ever make the ego wrong, but the ego does have a tendency to always want to be right. And that is part of why I see traders struggle. You guys all seem to know what to do, but the challenge you face is doing what you know you need to do. Just let's talk about cutting losses. Why is that so hard for you guys? Because your ego is wrapped up in being right. Your ego is fragile. So every time you thought you were right and you get like a little dopamine from that and find out you were wrong, that's why you go into so much resistance getting out of a trade as soon as it's clear you were incorrect. That is the game of the ego. The ego is not caring about whether you make money. The ego doesn't care about whether you learn how to trade successfully. The ego doesn't care if you have friends or loved ones. The ego cares only about being right. And until you guys can get comfortable not being right, not depending on your ego, feeling good about itself, you will continue to suffer and struggle as a trader. And the quote that I put up with this is that this is required for you to up level. You've got to see that your ego is not who you are, that you are not the mistakes you make, that your sense of value, you have it very hooked right now to you being right. And that is why being wrong is so painful. That's why you stay in your comfort zone all the time. The comfort zone is usually the landscape of the ego, because the ego wants to be right. The ego wants to feel good about itself. But there's such a cost, not just monetarily to you, every time you succumb to the ego. But if you ever watch kids do not have this issue. When they fall down, they just get back up. They don't think about it. They don't ruminate upon it. They don't talk to their other toddler friends and be like, I fell down this morning 5 times. Can you believe it? That's not that I fell down 6 times. Like, can you imagine? Kids don't do this. They fall down, they get up, they drop stuff, they pick it up. They don't think about it. They don't overanalyze it. They don't beat themselves up for it. That's why being like a child is required to succeed at trading. You have to have that childlike wonder. You have to be unattached. You just have to see it as practice. Practice makes perfect. And that is why I think for most traders, it can be so devastating because that sense of your self-esteem, your self-worth is all tied up in how you view yourself. And that is only because of the ego. And I can promise you guys, if that starts to change, if you get this, if you hear what I'm saying today, and you're like, oh, yeah, this totally makes sense, that is what I'm doing, then I want you to start to consider, oh, how do I do this? Well, you first have to start noticing all the ways, all the places that you constantly struggle with your ego wanting to be right. You can notice this in every argument with a loved one you have. You can find this happening when you're with a room full of people who have a different political persuasion than you. You can run into your ego when you gain 5 pounds or 10 pounds after Thanksgiving. You will find your ego has a very strict expectation. And anytime you fall even a hair's breadth off from that, you will discover what your ego is attached to. But that is why trading is so hard, especially for those who come in from being in the corporate world first or coming from academia, because academia and the corporate world have a tendency to build up your ego with accomplishments, with titles, with grades, with prominence, with, accolades. And if you are used to that and you have had that for, let's say, 10, 20, 30 years, and now you have to start to come into trading, and all of the rules are different here. All the things that got you ahead in academia, perhaps in the medical field, in the corporate world, is not going to help you here. And that's why I have seen so many who are trying to make the transition struggle, because they have this whole other measuring stick that is sabotaging their ability to take being wrong in stride. Just kind of like, yeah, I'm learning even after 5-10 years. Yeah, I'm learning. Like, who cares? I made a mistake. Like, when we get on ice skates the first time, we don't expect to be like an Olympic ice skater, but you guys do go in with a whole bunch of expectations that are inappropriately high. Those sabotage you, because guess what happens? You fall even a little bit shy of that, or a lot shy of that expectation, and you start to beat yourself up. And your ego starts to wreak havoc in your head by telling you what a jerk you are, that you can never do anything. You are such a loser. What are you thinking? Like, these are just some of the catchphrases, right? I'm sure there's a whole bunch with 4-letter words left and right. And those are real too, guys. But, I'm trying to watch my cursing like a sailor today. So, all right, we got 70 people here. Come on, don't tell me out of 70 people, we don't have one trader who wants some live coaching. All right, so Alex says she's still at the office. She'd love to have the opportunity for coaching, but she can't come, which is too dang bad. I'm so sad to hear that. Oh, Bryce Toohey. I'm going to give a shout out to Bryce. Trader Bryce on X, guys. He just followed me on X, and I'm so happy to have him as a follower, but more, I'm excited to have him on my podcast. So stay tuned, guys. I'm going to have Bryce on. Bryce and I have been in each other's, what do you call it? Spheres, worlds for a long time, but I've never been able to nail him down for a podcast. So I'm so happy, Bryce, you're coming on. And I want you guys to keep an eye out for it, because Bryce has agreed to do an X space with me. So next Wednesday, I won't be doing the live coaching because I'll be doing an X space with Bryce. So Bryce and I are going to do part 1, which is going to be an interview format. And then when that completes, we're going to hop on X and take your questions. So here's my recommendation. go and watch Bryce in action. There are so many podcasts out there with him featured. He has given so much advice over the years. He's very generous. Go get educated by Bryce, and then come with valuable questions that will help you understand his teachings, will help you better better yourself and become a better trader. He is so generous. He is such a glass half filled kind of guy that I think he'll really be good for your souls. And I really hope that you'll come to the X space he and I will have next week. So yeah, Bryce, I'm just looking at X for questions that people might have and stumbled into that. So anyway, I'm just so glad. I'm honored to have you follow me. So thank you. All right. So out of all of these people in here, come on, guys. We got 80 people. Nobody wants live coaching. What the heck? Are you all shy? I mean, come on, really? In this social media world, you can't be shy. I don't even buy that anymore. But maybe you are. So if you are, then use my trader hotline to leave a message. I won't be able to listen to it today. But if you go to the 646-828-7736, that is a trader voicemail. It's anonymous, and you can leave your trading issue there for me. And then I'll play your question the next live I do, and I'll coach you in that statement that you speak to if you leave it there. Alternatively, you guys can ask questions through X right now. You can put your question on X. You can send me a DM. You can put your question here on YouTube. Like, remember, guys, this is all about you. So come and get the good stuff. All right. What else did I want to talk to you about? So I hope you go check out that incredible quote. The quote is actually from a psychiatrist who is basically kind of just, being quoted in a newspaper article. But what he's trying to say is children are unattached to their ego. They don't think of themselves as, I don't look good, I look bad. They don't care. That's why they learn so easily. And that's what I want you guys to get. If you want to learn easier, you have to surrender your ego at the gate of entry to become a trader. So please do what it takes to surrender that ego of yours, because it is not helping you. It is sabotaging you. It is hurting you. And I don't want that to be the case. So please take that into consideration. The other thing that I wanted to speak to, it's been on Instagram and a bunch of social media platforms probably for a couple of years. It's a fabulous one. It is a guy in a mall who's trying to film, and this guy that he starts talking to is standing next to him. And the guy who's doing the videotaping gets annoyed because somebody walks in front of him and his camera. And this kid, who possibly is on the spectrum, I can't be sure, but the guy gets annoyed, right? Oh, this guy, I can't believe he walked right in front of my camera. And this kid, like a genius, out loud says to him, don't attribute malice what can be attributed to ignorance. What he's saying is that, and then he goes on to elaborate, and it's just the best quote. I don't have the whole quote in front of me, but he goes on to say, most people are just in their own world. They're just unconscious. They're not thinking beyond themselves. And the kid goes on to say this few minutes of pure gold. And I just thought of that this morning because of something I did that I want to share with you, because this is where this thought came from. So I was working out this morning. It was a brutal workout. Shout out to Brian G, my trainer. He, I don't know if he was kidding or it was sarcastic, but he told me to come to this Wednesday class of his. There's very few people in this class, with good reason, because it kicks your butt. But he told me it was a stretching class. Oh my God. bum. It is so not a stretching class. He's like, yeah, it's like a stretching class, like a meditation class. It is like an Iron Man hour workout. It is brutal. You just start, I am so present how I am not in the right kind of shape, even though I paddle and swim all the time. This stuff that he's doing with us with barbells and squats and freaking lunges, I'm just like, a one big sweat ball at the end of this. So I just finished this workout. I'm probably a little dehydrated because I've just been pouring sweat. And also, I haven't eaten, right? I did the intermittent fasting this morning. So I am ravenously hungry. So in other words, I'm not at peak form. I'm like really burnt out from the workout, sweating, thirsty, hungry, right? So I come out onto the gym floor. This is like in a back room. And I see a friend of mine. I haven't seen him for like a couple of weeks. So I was so excited to see him. Plus, I was in this, hallucinatory state. Well, he's in the middle of lifting weights, right? Like he is, he's in the zone. I didn't notice this. I didn't notice his earphones. He did have AirPods on. I didn't notice those. Anyway, but I was like, hey, how you doing? And like, he like, I know he was happy to see me, but he was not happy to have his workout interrupted. So like, and I texted him after I left, like that was so inappropriate for me to do, right? He's in the middle of the lift, and I'm just like, hey, how you doing? Like, completely not in tune to this guy doing his workout. But that was the quote. When I was thinking, oh, I got to text him and tell him, oh shit, I'm so sorry. You're like in the middle of this intense workout, and I'm just like, hey, how you doing? Like, going for the hug and everything. Like, it was so not called for. But I was not myself, and I wasn't trying to be rude. But it came across rude. I would have been annoyed if somebody did that in the middle of my workout, right? Even somebody I love, because it's just, you're in the middle of doing your workout. Anyway, after this, I thought to myself, let's hope that he attributes this to ignorance and not malice, right? Because I could look like somebody being just completely self-absorbed and not at all in tune to him. And that, I thought, was a great topic to bring up today, because I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to disregard his workout. But again, like, I wasn't myself. I was sweaty. I was hungry, thirsty. I was just not on my game in that moment, leaving the class like a zombie. And so I didn't have good judgment in that moment. And what I want to say this for is because all of us are going to have poor judgment sometimes. Hopefully it's not a constant thing, but we all have to realize that happens to us, and it happens to those around us. It happens with a guy who cuts you off on the road and maybe comes too close to you, right? So I think the whole world shifts if you decide to take on this perspective. And the perspective is, don't attribute to malice what can be ignorance. Sometimes what people are doing isn't from malice, but it feels like it is, right? We are affronted, we are offended, we feel like they're so disrespectful, they're so self-absorbed, they're so selfish. And what I'm trying to say is, or they're just burnt out from a really intense workout, or they're late to maybe somebody they care about who's in the hospital, or they're racing to a birthday party, they're late, and they got the cake in their backseat. Like, there are so many different reasons why certain things go the way they go. And I think our individual lives are so much better if we begin to realize that sometimes it's just naivete or ignorance or, a brain fart, so to speak, right? Something could just be off. And this ties into one of my all-time favorite books, which I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about before, which is called The Art of Possibility. And that is written by Ben and Rosamund Zander. They are husband and wife. And Ben Zander, I don't know if he still is, but he used to be the conductor for the Boston Philharmonic. He loves classical music, and he is an incredible speaker. There's talk after talk after talk by Ben Zander. If you haven't seen Ben Zander in action, do yourself a solid today and Google a Ben Zander TED Talk or just a Ben Zander talk. I promise you will be uplifted after you expose yourself to him and his brilliance. So him and his wife wrote this book, The Art of Possibility, which basically he talks, one of his chapters is giving the A. What is giving the A? Well, it's exactly what I'm talking about. Giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, giving somebody a slack that maybe they didn't mean it the way you interpret it. Now, I'm not telling you not to have your feelings about it. You might be mad, you might be annoyed, you might be sad over what happened. But so much, again, our egos will tell us, well, it's because they don't respect you. Oh, well, they did that because, she only cares about herself. Or, oh, it's because they don't value you. Or because they don't think that you matter. Like, our egos, our inner critics, our inner gremlins will come up with a collection of stories that have nothing at all to do with reality, because that is how our egos operate. That's how our inner critics operate. And the key here is to not buy those stories hook, line, and sinker. Look, if somebody repeatedly has you waiting on them, then it's maybe something else. But a one-off or somebody who just cut you off the road once, like if you start to give the A, you will be amazed how different your perspective shifts in everyday events and how different your mood is. Because when it feels like everybody's out to get you, you will look for evidence of that. You will look for, and that one too. Look at him, and he's doing that. Like when you focus on a particular thing, you see it everywhere. And that is what I'm hoping you guys start to hear by way even of what happens with you as traders. This happens all the time with traders say to me, oh, Kim, in the Discord room or on X or StockTwits or wherever you are, like, oh, and people telling me, oh, they made all this money and they did this and it was so easy. What the hell's wrong with me? Why didn't I catch that? Why didn't I stay in there? Why didn't I this and this? But you don't know the full picture, guys. You don't know the story. You don't know if that guy or gal has been sitting there for 18 hours and hasn't even got to the bathroom. You have no idea what took place for them. You are only seeing that which they're showing you. And you need to realize that everybody has an ego. There's very few people who have been able to transcend their ego. I do think there are a couple of teachers on this planet that look like they sure as hell have transcended it. Dalai Lama is one of them. Eckhart Tolle, perhaps. Adyashanti, maybe. But other than a handful of people and maybe some of the spiritual teachers I'm not familiar with, I don't think there's that many guys. So you got to realize you're up against a whole bunch of people who have egos. And that is what most of us are protecting. You have an ego. I have an ego. We all do. The key is to notice, oh, there it is again. There it is trying to hijack me. There it is trying to make me feel lousy about myself. There it is judging the guy that just passed you on the road. There it is when somebody who moves slow gets in front of you on the 10 items or last line, right? How selfish. They didn't even pay attention to me. Maybe they're blind in one eye for all you know, right? So the reason I'm suggesting this is because it gives you a very different lens at which you see the world. So again, Ben Zander has this great book called The Art of Possibility, and that is one of the chapters, but all the other chapters pack a punch. They help you mix it up. They help you come out of your stuck, limited ways of thinking and start to step into possibility. One of my favorite Rumi quotes, and I have a lot of them, is one where he says, outside of the ideas of right and wrong, there is a field. I will meet you there. How often are you locked into a particular right or wrong, black or white, either or mindset? If that happens often to you, you are shortchanging yourself. You are cutting the nose off to spite your face. Allow yourself to live in ambiguity. Get comfortable with it. As a trader, it is going to serve you in a plethora of ways. If you are so attached to your timeline, to how much you're supposed to make, to comparing yourself to other traders, to feeling like you're missing out, all of that stuff puts you back into a very limited way of operating. But if you can get comfortable with ambiguity, if you can get unattached to all the things that you hope trading is going to do for you, if you can just simply notice, oh, I think that might actually finally get me the respect from my family that I haven't get, or that money that I'll be able to make will suddenly give me that sense of I'm enough when I hang out with people who are at a higher net worth than I am. You got to look for these little things that are informing what these goals that you have are. Goals are a big thing this time of year, right? Before New Year's Eve, everybody's talking about goals. But look, you already have a bunch of goals from last year. I would much rather see you investigate what's underneath all of those goals. What are underneath all of these hopes and wishes that you had for yourself for this past year that didn't go the way you thought they would? Let's get to the bottom of what those are. Let's get to the bottom of, have you created a list filled with your wants, or are they a list of your needs? Because we both know they are radically different things. You can get all the things you want, but if you have none of your needs met, you are not going to be a happy camper. You say, oh, yeah, I would like to be miserable, Kim, at a beautiful penthouse on my private jet. I can promise you, because I coach those people, the private jet, the penthouse, the trophy wife or husband or boyfriend doesn't make them happy. Nobody's saying anybody complains about having a private jet, but what they do complain about is that they thought they would feel better about themselves when they achieved it or acquired it, and they don't know what to do with that feeling. That, let me tell you guys, that is an awful place to be. To have spent 20, 30 years building what you thought was going to finally give you peace and finally give you a sense of yourself. And you get there and it doesn't do that. That is a very lonely, isolating place, because who are you going to complain to? Who are you going to bitch to? Nobody's going to listen to you. You got a private jet. Don't give me your trouble song. But that is what exactly happens if you get all of those wants and you haven't secured any of your needs. That's why, guys, you've got to be clear. What are underneath all the wants you have for yourself? If it's your ego, if it's your sense of worthiness, I can promise you, you can achieve all the goals you currently have for yourself tomorrow. And if your sense of identity isn't coming from within yourself and based on external factors, it ain't going to do the job. It's like fast food or Chinese takeout. You're going to be hungry an hour later. I used to do Chinese takeout. I had the best Chinese place on the Upper East Side. It's just a couple of blocks away. Oh my God, I ordered from them way too many times. But an hour later, like clockwork, I was like, I'm still hungry. It never really fully satiated me. So that's not what I want to have happen to you guys. That's all. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. I'm looking for any questions on X. I don't see any questions here on Restream. I have 190 people across all platforms here, and yet nobody's raising their hand for live coaching. What the heck, guys? What the heck? There's nobody here who wants to come on for live coaching. That just seems silly. Silly, 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 silly. All right, fine. But hopefully I gave you guys some food for thought today. I just thought that quote that Dylan put up was just, it just says it all. And you know, there's actually, this is a famous quote that Jesus has in the Bible where he says that you must be like a little child, right, to get into the kingdom of heaven. That is a childlike unattachment, right? Children and their childlike wonder and their ability to be present is available to us. But what happens is over time, we start to get caught up in the trappings and it just costs us. But that's part of why it's so important, I think, for us to be surrounded by all the ages. This is what tribes intuitively knew back in the day. You know, you had a tribe of elders and kids and those in between years represented, and everybody joined together. But we need to be around elders, we need to be around kids, we need to be around people who are less experienced than us and more experienced than us, so that we can learn from one another. And if you don't have kids yourself, then you could just sit at a playground and watch how they operate. Watch them in a softball pee-wee game, you know, pee-wee softball or something. What you'll see is that they make a mistake, maybe they cry, and then 2 minutes later, they're over it. That's what I want to encourage you to do. How do you start to operate just like a kid with your trading? Oh my God, I thought it would work. It didn't work. That sucks. I feel like crap. Oh well. And then they go on with themselves, right? That is what you could do. So give it a shot. Let me know if it works. Let me know how it goes. But that is the key. Letting go of the ego, letting go of the shame, letting go of the fact that you are, surprise, surprise, not perfect. If you are from this planet and you are human, you will never be perfect, guys. So what in God's name are y'all all trying so hard to be perfect for? Why are you in so much resistance to your imperfections? Why are you in so much resistance to your humanity? Like, you're never going to not be human. So why are you trying so hard? And I have to answer this on X, but I put up a survey yesterday that I really like. Let's see how the survey's doing. Let me go take a look at it. I haven't looked at it in a while. It cracked me up because I was like, oh, there's going to be a lot of people that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and that gave me a good laugh. I have to find my yeah. You see, 44% of the participants don't even know what it is I'm asking. All right, so this was my post on X yesterday. I said, I propose most traders are more addicted to hustle porn than they are to actual porn. And then I asked, do you agree? Yes, no, or what is hustle porn? But can I tell you, the majority of the people have asked, what the hell is hustle porn? I'm going to tell you what hustle porn is, and I'll go into X eventually and answer it there too. Hustle porn is this belief that you are somehow superior if you are grinding it out, if you are hustling it out, if you are not sleeping for days on end, or you are working like Alex Hormozy, like, or David Goggins. Like, that is hustle porn. And the guy that actually called that out is what's her name's husband, Alex Ohian. How do you say his last name? I don't think I know how to pronounce it, so forgive me. Let me get his name up here. I just want to have it handy because I want to give him credit for this, because he is the one who. It's Ohanian. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. So Ohanian is the one who came up with this term. He said it. I think in like 2018, very few people have heard about it, but he said it's like a fetishization of the people, entrepreneurs and employees in tech, but I would say in finance too, who overwork themselves and then, consistently advocate that that's what everybody needs to do. And that he speaks to how costly and compromised it has made a lot of people. There are those who are like, will see it almost like a brag that they're working these crazy hours, or that they don't sleep well. They don't sleep a lot of hours at night. And that is hustle porn. And that is so consumed social media, where let me just ask you this question. You can answer here in the chat box if you want or not, but the day or days or hours or afternoons where you aren't doing something, let's just say you're kicked back on your couch, you're not even watching something. How many times are you comfortable just being? Do you feel guilty for being like, oh, well, I'm not listening to a podcast. Well, I'm not getting my steps in. Well, I'm not taking cold plunge. Well, I'm not eating perfectly healthy, organic, non-GMO food in glass without the plastic. Like every second of every day, the culture is encouraging us to judge ourselves for not doing or not doing it the right way. But guys, that is also the ego. And that is part of what I hope you guys will see. If you are addicted to hustle porn, take a hard look at that, because it is another form of numbing, just like regular porn is. It's just a form of numbing. Booze, getting high, working out too much, working. All of those can often be used to numb, so that you don't have to be with what might be harder to be with feelings deep inside. And I want you to not get into judgment about this, but I do want you to get curious about, where is that coming from? What is going on? What could be informing your need to numb in the first place? Because if you are trading to numb yourself, that is going to cost you. Trading should not be used to compensate for hard to be with feelings. If you trade just because you don't want to be with some hard to be with things, I can promise you guys, over the long haul, you are not going to be able to sustain the level of success long term, because your body, your mind, your soul is going to at some point push back if you don't address what is actually going on within you emotionally. And that is a big part of the journey of self-awareness, a big part of the consciousness journey, a willingness to look at all of the shadows, all of the places that you are kind of avoiding hard truths. The reason most people avoid hard truths is because of this tremendous judgment that comes up in them. But that's why I'm trying to point out why it's so important for you to identify this ego, because it's the ego that gets bruised when you suddenly start to look at these hard truths. But in the end, guys, you want to be able to look at those hard truths and take them in stride and be like, oh, right, of course, this makes total sense because of the childhood I had or because of what I was told on the playground with a bully. Like, there are reasons that you potentially have these compromised ways of showing up. There are, of course, reasons why you want to numb yourself. The key is not judging it and, like a scientist, start to observe, oh, what is happening here for me? Oh, what is hijacking me each and every time I bump into my mother-in-law? What is getting triggered every time I'm trying to up level myself and I make a slew of mistakes? What goes on inside of me that I get so down on myself? Was that because that's what I heard when I was a kid? Was that because I have this incredible high expectation of myself to be something other than human? These are the inquiries that you want to step into for yourself to suddenly start to see that there are all these ingredients in the recipe that you are. Is it possible there's some ingredients that no longer need to be used? You know, they talk about people who are at high elevation, they have to change up the recipes, right? The recipe changes when you're at a very high elevation. That is the same with you. When you were a kid, the environment you were in, your family of origin, your friends, your loved ones, your schools, all of these factors, your doctors, all of these are things that influenced you. But at some point, when we get 18, 19, 20 years old, nobody comes along, pats us on the shoulder and says, hey, guess what? A lot of that stuff you don't need to take with you into the next journey of your life. You can leave them all here. And unless you get that awareness, even 10 or 20 or 40 years later, you might never wake up and you might keep behaving exactly as you did in that family of origin you have not been with for decades. That is the key to self-awareness. Start to notice, right? Rick Carson says that in his book, Taming Your Inner Gremlin. Simply notice. Oh, I get triggered when this happens. There could be things I talk about that get you triggered. Get curious. Get curious. What is it being triggered? What and where do I have some limiting beliefs or I have some attachments that have so been a part of my identity that now I self-describe myself that way? That is also the ego, guys. You are not the car you drive. I hate to break it to you. You are not the watch you wear. You are not your body type. You are not the color of your hair. You are not your Yankees or Mets fan, or I don't even know the other sports teams, but you get the gist. The Islanders, the Rangers. I'm from New York. These are the teams I grew up with. You tell me. You are not your team. You are not a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or a Green Planet person. These are not who you are. You are not the kind of trading you trade. You are not the age you are, guys. You are not the color of your eyes. You are not the people you hang out with. You are not your bank account. You are not the place you live. None of these things identify who you are. You transcend all of these things, guys. You are none of those. Those are things that help you relate to yourself and other people, but they don't summarize the exquisite stardust that you are. And that is part of what you need to see. Oh, I'm very attached to being Irish. I'm very attached to being a Mets fan. I'm really attached to being a New Yorker at heart, right? That's the ego just wanting you to see yourself in this little tiny little box of a label. But those labels are not you. And there's a scene, I don't know if you guys have read this book or not, but some of you guys probably know I had Matthew McConaughey come on my podcast. It's probably over a year ago, maybe it's even 2 years ago, to talk about his book, Green Lights. I he and I share a mutual friend, and I called it a favor to my friend. I was like, hey, can you hook me up with Matthew? I would like to have him on my podcast. And very fortunately for me, my friend agreed. And even more fortunately, Matthew agreed. But he did want to know why I wanted him on my podcast. And I spent, no joke, guys, 5 hours drafting a 2-paragraph email to Matthew McConaughey to explain exactly why I wanted him on my podcast. But I emphasize this. And if you haven't watched that interview that I did with him, please go and watch it because it is very, very powerful. Oh yeah, too. I want to make sure I give this. I just forgot something. I have this free ebook that I'm very excited to share with you guys, and I forgot to mention that this whole time because I was a lot on a tangent. But there, I just put it in the box. So it's the 5 practices, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute. But I want to finish this point about Matthew. Let me just put this link up on X too. So here's what Matthew talks about in his book, Green Lights. And if you guys haven't read it, or I would recommend you get it for your as a Christmas present, or you get it for yourself as a Christmas present or Hanukkah present, or, Kwanzaa present. I want you to read that book because he has so much gold dropped throughout that book. But here's the scene. And I talked to him about this in our interview. He says every time he has something like, Hollywood related happen for him, I think he just won the Oscar. He's conscious of his ego. He's conscious that his ego is probably swelling after winning an Oscar. How could it not, right? It's an incredible accomplishment. But what he said he does is after something that kind of kicks up his ego, has him feeling maybe feeling pride is one thing. He and I are we're not talking about that. Being proud, being confident, knowing you have earned something through hard work, or that just your worthiness is worth being acknowledged, it is a different conversation. He's talking about, and I'm trying to talk about now, this concept of where you start to believe the press written about you, right? When you start to think your identity is what you accomplish. That's the heart of hustle porn, guys. The heart of hustle porn is that you only are worthy if you're producing, like you're a freaking factory machine. That is a lie. That is misinformation. So again, Matthew says, he wins this Oscar, and he said whenever he has these kind of accolades or some kind of big thing, he takes himself to a place where nobody knows who the hell he is. He's Matthew McConaughey. You got to go pretty far. And he does. He goes to the Amazon jungle. Let me tell you guys, nobody in the Amazon knows who Matthew McConaughey is, which just goes to show you maybe we should all move to that Amazon. Not because we don't know Matthew, but because how cool would that be to not have all that kind of constant stimulation upon us? But that's a different lifestyle for sure. I could live in Hawaii, but I don't think I could live in the Amazon jungle. But he said that when he gets to the Amazon, he talks specifically in Green Lights about this scene where he is Irish, of Irish descent. He has a clatter ring. A clatter ring is an Irish, something a lot of Irish people wear. I've never had a clatter ring for some reason, but I'm Irish. I'm all Irish, maybe a little English. But he said he's got, what's the team that he likes so much? It's a Texas team. I don't even remember the name. I'm so sorry. I know it's the Texan Hook'em. It's the Hook'em thing because my co-host Lucas asked him for the Hook'em. So whatever that team is, right? He's got that baseball cap on. He's got a cross on, which I think was his father's before his father passed away. So he's speaking, his wedding ring, of course, represents his marriage to his wife. So he said he's in this, ritual that he did for himself after winning this Oscar. And he said, I removed each of these representations of labels, right? A husband, the son, an Irish man, whatever that sports team fan is. He said, I take all of these things off to stand naked, to stand without labels, to stand, not thinking about his accolades as an actor, right? All of these things are easily confused as our identity. But what he's saying in this scene is that none of those are who he fundamentally is. They're parts of him that he loves and embraces, but he does this ritual so that he can remember that he is even more than these special, kind of symbols and titles and, labels. He wants to be able to come back to his essence. And that's what I'm recommending to you guys. You could self-describe as a certain figure trader. You could self-describe as, again, a Democrat or Republican or something, a libertarian. Like, you could self-identify with all of these labels. I'm a pescatarian, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a carnivore. Again, just see how many labels have you stuck on yourself, like stickers on luggage of all the places you visited. And don't mix up who you are with all of those labels, because who you are is transcendent of all of those labels. And here's the thing, guys, some of those labels, like, they're not going to be that costly, right? Your religion, your belief system, the books you've read, the sport you like, the exercises you do. But you got to see that there is sometimes a cost and a limiting mindset when all you focus on is the labels, because it keeps you small. It keeps you from actually being fully who you completely are, which transcends all of those labels. And that's ultimately a place where you have a lot more possibility, a lot more power, because those labels that you have used for years to describe yourself sometimes keep you stuck. Not always, but on occasion, they can keep you stuck to a way of living. There was somebody I spoke to this morning, and I told her that I swim and that I paddle. And I said, you should come and paddle. It's just so amazing. And she's like, I don't swim. Now, I can't swim, or I haven't learned how to swim, is a very different sentence than I don't swim. She could take lessons, but she will probably never take lessons if she consistently tells herself, I don't swim. Can you see how that's a limiting thought? I can't swim because I've never learned, or I don't want to swim, but I don't swim. Ask yourself, how often are you using that kind of language when it comes to trading? I'm not a morning person. Excuse me? You could be one if you wanted to be. I'm not a late night owl. Excuse me? You could be one if you wanted to be. Look for the labels you've given yourself. Look for the identifying catchphrases you have used for a long time, and ask yourself, what if I put all these self-descriptions down, like Matthew McConaughey in the Amazon jungle? What if you take off your rings? What if you take off your sport team or your political t-shirt? What if you put it down? Even trader. I know I'm asking for a lot here, because all of you guys are like, whoa, now you're going too close to the quick, Kim. But truly, think about it. Every time you tell any small group of people that you're a trader, is there an ego boost from that? Does that let you look like the odd man out? Does that make you look a little cooler? Does it make you look like you're one of the guys? Like, ask yourself, what are these labels that you have identified with? How are they holding you back? I don't want you held back, guys. That's the heart of the matter. All right, 150 people. I cannot believe 150 people are here, and I'm so glad you're all here. But that nobody wants live coaching. So I'm going to give you guys one last chance before I skedaddle. And if you do want some live coaching, please speak now. so I could get you in the room. There it's the 5 practices. I want you guys to have that. That's a free gift from me. It's a 25-page ebook that features some incredible traders like Kyle Williams, like Brian Lee, like Jason Shapiro, Jack Kellogg, Mari. These interviews and conversations are all about their own use of what I call the 5 practices, right? Self-responsibility, self and other empathy, emotional non-resistance, embracing your hero's journey as a trader, and mindfulness, self-awareness. So hopefully you will get a copy for yourself, read about their conversations. They were incredibly generous with their time, and I want to thank them all. And I want to thank you all for being here today. I have clearly a lot to say, and I'm glad I came in with some topics because I'm so shocked nobody volunteered. So am I correct? Nobody wants to do some live coaching with me one-on-one. If nobody comes in, I'm going to wrap this up. But if you're thinking, okay, yes, maybe I will do this, then come on in. Just click that restream button here. I'll give it to you guys again in case that helps. Let's see here. I'll put it up on YouTube and I'll put it up on X one more time because, yeah, this is what I do, guys. This is what I do almost every Wednesday. So I'm hoping that somebody comes in before I shut her down. But if not, it's okay. Hopefully I gave you guys some food to chew on, some thoughts to think about. And at the end of the day, I just want you guys to be able to up-level your trading, up-level your life, up-level your heart and your spirit and your soul, because they're all interconnected. And I truly believe how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if you're finding yourself bumping into issues in your trading, I promise you guys, that is also showing up in your life. And trading is giving you this incredible education if you will let her have her way with you. She is not coming from a place to harm you. She is actually coming, if you can see this, with benevolence. Just like a little kid, you might grab a little kid before it runs into traffic or before it puts its little tiny hand on a hot stove. That would be because you're trying to protect it from itself, right? The same is true. What if you see the market as benevolent? What if you see the market as having your best interests at heart? That the places you have resistance are the things the market wants to have you transcend. That is a very different way of walking into your trading every day. Start to see, what are the lessons I am here to learn? What are the attachments I am going to have to leave at the gate of entry into this landscape? It requires you to be 100% conscious and present. And if you aren't, you are going to pay with your capital and you're going to pay with your soul. Any trader here who's had a big loss knows that it didn't just take your money, it took a little small piece of your soul. And what I'm saying is, learn from it. If you paid with your soul and your capital, why would you not want to learn the lesson it's trying to teach you? Do you want to go through it again? Probably not. Probably not. All right. Now wrap it up, all you 154 souls. I hope you guys are kind to your own mind and the rest of this week. And please join me next week on the 11th of December, Wednesday, probably about 4 or 5 Eastern. Bryce Tui doing an X space with me. I hope you guys will keep an eye out for that. X, I usually put that up a day or two before so you guys can sign up on X. And I'm sending you all good juju. Thank you for being here today. Thanks for listening to me rant. Hopefully, some of what I said was of value. And for the following Wednesday, please consider coming in for some live coaching. These are so much more, exciting, if you will, when I'm here coaching somebody. And what I also love about it is the community starts to just drop love on that person who gets their coaching, because every trader in the room says, oh my God, Joe or Sue, me too. Thanks for going for my sake, because I have the same issue. And that's part of what hopefully this group is all about. If you guys start to see that you're not the only one struggling, if you start to see that you're not the only one who's wrestling with these, challenges, I hope that makes you feel a little less like you're the only one, because you are not the only one, guys. You are not the only one. So yeah, learn how to have some compassion for yourselves. This is a hard journey you're on. So try to find a way to be kind to yourself so you can be more patient. If some people think, beating somebody, making somebody scared gets the best out of them. In my experience, and based on a lot of scientific research that's been done out there by smarter minds than me, it is not true, guys. When we are coming from fear, when we feel like shit about ourselves and we're trying to excel at something, that is not going to help us level up. And ultimately, you want to level up, right? So you're going to have to learn how to have some self-compassion for yourself. When you're truly compassionate for yourself, you actually become more disciplined. You will be able to stay true to the hard work because you have enough self-respect. But when you just beat the hell out of yourself, you can't go the distance because you got all these holes in the gas tank. And I want you to go the distance. All right. That's that. I hope you guys have a great day. In Hawaii, we say ahui ho, which means until we meet.